art can be a vehicle for so many things. One of those things is self-esteem and confidence and knowing your worth and validating your worth, because if you have that foundation, then that can translate into so many other things. Exposing children to art and building up families through artistic practices doesn't necessarily mean that they should be artists. Maybe they've gained something from that experience they can then take with them through their next career path or wherever they end up in life, right?
Yeah.
Because this whole city is ours, and we need to start acting like it.
It's ours. I love that.
So I'll come visit you in your neighborhood, you come out to me, you know?
This whole city is ours.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not, it's ours.
Yes.
I love what you were saying about like that they're already artists, but they may not use that word. They don't have that identity, right? Like,
right.
And so like some of my favorite artists, like I'm wearing a design by Marcelo Ferrer, who's like our immigrant rights organizer, right? Like he doesn't think of himself as like,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm this artist,
it's like,
right?
No, you're dope. Like claim it,
right?
Claim
I'm like,
it.
oh, that's beautiful. Can I wear that? Like, can I get that tattooed,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Norma Rios, who like is a mom, right? And she's now is creating so much beautiful art in our community as a way, right, for her to contribute to speak to the erasure that she was feeling, right? Like not feeling at home anymore. Yeah. So now she's creating art. Like some of my favorite people, right, are not people who have the time, right? They have full-time jobs. They may be in a factory all day, but they're creating art, right?
Yes.
They're making earrings, right? They have indigenous, right? Like all that kind of stuff, right?
See? Yeah.
And giving space. The pop-up shops give up space. One of our like front desk kind of receptionist, now she's going to be our community resource center manager, but she has a mercado, so like a group of women, and they set up shop like 2 blocks down on Sundays, and it's all immigrant women who make, you know, either piñatas at home or tamales at home, earrings, you know, or they get shipments
so it's custom couture,
right? But they're not using those words, but it is right. Like
so part of that is like us digesting and having ingrained or absorbed this notion of like this high, whatever this like upper echelon level of whatever like validating art is. It's not just museums. It's not just, you know, the art scene, the art world. We are all creators. EAC, you know, initially we started just to like as an activist originated group that just wanted to represent. We didn't form under the idea of let's be a nonprofit or nothing like that. It was like, yo, we were just tired of the narrative that was about where we grew up, where we currently, some of us still live, all of us who came from, my family still live there, and we're all artists, and we were all friends, or at least one point of connection. It was like, yo, we should just form together like Voltron and say, hey, we're here, and you know, we became more activated last year, more than before.
For us at LSNA, what we're really trying to do is the visibility of our people, right? There really is a need to say like, yo, we're still here. So this whole idea of whose community is this, right?
Yeah.
And who feels welcomed, who is seen, right? Is such a theme throughout all of our organizing that we do. It resonates a lot with our immigrant, mostly our base of our leaders are immigrant mothers, right? For a lot of different reasons, don't feel seen, don't feel heard. And then you're in a super gentrified community where nobody thinks of your community necessarily anymore, right, as an immigrant community. But here you are, right? Like you're trying to.
It's been yours for.
It's been, right? And you came here because you felt welcome, right? You felt like this could be yours. And so some of the work that we're doing around these themes of like, we're here to stay, both in terms of housing, right, being able to live here, and in terms of immigrant rights, right? That we're here to stay, and we're going to be unapologetic about who we are and what our history and our connections, and that we're going to stay here. We fought for a lot of the improvements, right? I talked about our Dominican mamas who fought for the 606, right? And we call it the Bloomingdale Trail, right? Because it's on Bloomingdale Street that cuts across the community. And so we have plans for La Placita, right, with support from Elevated, right? So to create a actual Mexican plaza, right? Like you see it all through Latin America, right? It's a very similar thing. murals along Armitage corridor, putting up butterflies, authentic representation, and visual cues to one another, right? That nod, that wink, wink. This is us. Yes. This is us. We're being us. It's safe to be us here, right? And who's comfortable here is important, right? In a gentrifying space, you often end up feeling very uncomfortable because it all of a sudden doesn't feel like you anymore, right? And so what we've been working with our mamas and with our young people, right, is the medicine of our symbols, our cultural symbols, and being very public about them.
I like the medicine. Beautiful. See, and that also speaks to the history of the world, the country, the city, how we have also visual markers that tell you boundaries based on historically how things have been, right? And we have to break those cycles. I think about Tonika and her next upcoming Inequity for Sale project, where she's putting land markers in front of homes that were basically like legally stolen from black families because of land sale contracts. And so it's about not erasing history. It's about actually bringing forth a history that people may not even be aware
that we're still living in it,
we're
right?
still living in it. People still live in that house that they didn't own, that they've been paying off forever, right? In a dilapidated area that's not being invested.
And it became dilapidated, why? Not by chance.
Exactly.
Right? This is systemic. The story of Chicago, right, is a very intentional racialized segregation, right? Like our city, the planners, right, the real estate developers, the bankers, literally laid out the map, right? Created terms, created conditions, policies that drove where investment happened and where investment wouldn't happen, right? And so what I respect and appreciate about ETOD, right, is the intentionality. That it's saying, this is the history in which we're operating, right? Because I think if we talk about development without social justice and without a historical context, we're just going to create the same pain and cycles over and over again. So what we need with that intent, with ETOD, is that intentionality of telling this history and then saying all people, right, especially the ones who have been the most excluded, right, from what every healthy community has, right? We need to do things with intentions. We need policies that allow community residents to stay and thrive in their community.
I think that when we talk about equitable transit-oriented development, we think about the fact that folks still ride the bus, very much so, still take the trains. There's so much vacant land around these areas. Let's activate that. Let's activate the sidewalk. Let's create something that leaves a lasting impression, but also can maybe exist as a hub for continual engagement, continual creative engagement. I mean, something that's also very, very important to me is like, whether my mom knew she was doing it or not, like, we're world citizens, like we hopped on the bus and went outside of our community quite a bit. Because I don't know how she knew it, but she knew when some museum was having a free day or this neighborhood was having this festival. So, this city always felt like my city. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized fully how that's not exactly a reality for many, and how much of a feat and how much work it took to make that a reality too, when we live in such a segregated city. And so, I think we all should be comfortable floating through spaces, from whether it be Soho House or, I don't even know, like over here by Dill Pickle to somewhere in South Shore. Like, we should be able to bounce around wherever we need to, or wherever our heart calls us to be. Like, no boundaries. No boundaries while still preserving history. Like, is that possible? Because too often when we say no boundaries and something gets lost. You know what I'm saying? How do you still have like a strong sense of culture while still feeling free, grounded and light?
And one marker of that would be that your zip code no longer dictates or predicts your life expectancy.
Look at you quoting the ELT poster. Yes, your zip code no longer determines.
That would be one measure of that. Like, wherever you live, you get to live this full, abundant life.
As anyone else.
As anyone else,
I love that.